The mother of 11-year-old Jayden-Lee Meek has been charged with the child's murder. Tiffany Meek was arrested on Friday, made her first appearance at the Roodepoort Magistrates Court in west of Johannesburg today. Meek reported her son missing in mid-May. His body was found the next morning, half naked and unconscious on a staircase in the complex where they lived. He was declared dead shortly after arriving at a local hospital. Let's speak more about this then with the director at the Teddy Bear Foundation, Dr. Shaheda Omar. Very good evening to you, Dr. Omar. Good to have your time on the SABC. This sort of thing, these allegations against Jayden's mother are enough to send chills down the spine of any parent, any person really.
It's not only person. I think what kind of messaging and signals are we sending to children out there? The people that are supposedly be protecting you are becoming predators, and we're seeing this reality repeated over and over again. It's becoming more common. It's no longer an exception or something that one hears of maybe in a few years. Unfortunately, within a short span of time, we've seen a second case in a few months where a child has been subjected to brutalization by the very person that is supposed to protect their child, implicitly take care and ensure the safety of their child. So this is absolutely alarming, heart-wrenching, soul-destroying and concerning for our children and communities out there.
And you can't help but wonder, Dr. Omar, what sort of suffering Jayden would have had to endure, because some of the reporting suggests that when he was found on that staircase, he may have been alive that day. His body, if he was already passed, was still warm. And there is this gap from when he's said to have been dropped off by a scholar transport to when the body was ultimately found, or when he was found on that staircase. And that's what, am I right in saying, we now need to piece together?
Indeed. I mean, an 11-year-old, what could have been going through his mind, his emotions, his thoughts, the issue of betrayal, the issue of trust being destroyed. I mean, his last moments, it's not just the physical fear, but the emotional intensity of what he was subjected to. Unfortunately, one will never know, because this poor child has left this world and, you know, it's been catastrophic. His ending has been totally catastrophic and soul destroying. I mean, we there are no words to describe what this, experience may have been for this child.
And as you and I speak this evening, the mother is only facing charges, not yet convicted. But I wonder how common it is in South Africa, where we know we've got a gender-based violence and femicide problem and child abuse as well. How common is it for mothers to be the ones who take the lives of their children?
So we've seen cases of maternal filicide where mothers have killed their children and attempted to take their own lives. Unfortunately, were not successful in that. And we are seeing a growing concern of more and more children who are have not been murdered, but a lot of brutalization and a lot of suffering, torturing that children have been subjected to. So this is something that one needs to be aware of, that children are being objectified. They are treated as objects. There's no compassion, sensitivity, empathy. In the cases that we are looking at, we see the lack of empathy, and we don't see regret, we don't see remorse, unfortunately, and there's no acknowledgement of responsibility. And this is typical of a sociopath. But we also have to try and wear a different lens, a systemic lens, at what are the risk factors that are contributing to children being so vulnerable and being violated and murdered in such horrific circumstances. One has to look at those things. I know the issue of, poverty has been addressed, but we need to look at the rest of South Africa. The masses are living in an impoverished context, and they do not resort to this kind of violence. But we see that because of impoverished context, people are resorting to, the lucrative industry of profiteering or generating an income, where we're finding children are being trafficked for muti organs, the harvesting of organs, for exploitation, sexual exploitation, domestic labor. So unfortunately, people are not sensitive to the issue of children being individuals, persons, that they're actually human beings and they need to be protected. This requires a whole of society effort if we want to safeguard and protect each and every child.
And I don't want to use the word rationalize, but because it's so shocking when you hear that a mother is accused of killing their child, because traditionally, whether right or wrong, the association is that the mother is the primary caregiver, the nurturer, the one with the maternal instinct. In the research that we have available, at least in terms of such crimes in South Africa, what are the most common explanations, shall we say, of why a woman would resort to such a crime? You've mentioned the issue of poverty, but in this case, they weren't living in abject poverty. We don't yet know a motive, and people are asking, why would a mother want to kill her son?
So a very important question indeed. Why would a mother, if we look at some of the cases that we've dealt with from a clinical experience, there's underlying pathology. Sometimes mothers are on substances, whether it's alcohol, drugs. Mothers are not in a safe space where they're totally powerless, helpless, out of control because of their underlying pathology, their mental state. We find that depression, aggression, because underlying aggression is depression. So there are other additional factors that would contribute. But if we look at with the issue of objectification, and I mentioned the income generation, the lucrative industry of getting quick money, and how children there's a dissociation and detachment from their child. So those are some of the risk factors that one would find that contributes to this kind of criminal, unlawful behavior.
And is it fair to say that in some cases, Dr. Omar, the parents, be it a mother or father, are just fundamentally people who themselves are horrible people, evil perhaps?
Well, I think at this point in time, we have to factor in all possibilities. Where, as I said, sometimes one cannot make sense of it. Sometimes people belong to a cult as well. That is something that we cannot dismiss. And the rituals that they have to comply with and conform with to be part of that cult is also something that contributes to this kind of behavior. So yes, it is evil, it's uncanny, it's eerie, and it's horrible.
And we expect that by the end of this week, Tiffany Meek would have applied for bail. A hearing, I think, is scheduled for Friday this week. If she does manage to get bail, in fact, what do you think, firstly, are the chances of her getting bail, given the seriousness of the charge against her? And B, would she be safe going back to that community in Vleerhof where many people desperately searched for hours looking for 11-year-old Jayden, and now that community is shattered to hear that their neighbor, their friend, is being accused of killing the very little boy?
So I'd like to answer the second question first. Mob violence and the community wanting to see justice being served because the community has already convicted her. And, granting bail may not be in her best interest, unfortunately, because she would be, a possible target by community members because of what they have seen and witnessed. Unfortunately, bail would not be in the best interest of this individual. Although she could, there are other reasons that if she would be considered a flight risk, she will not be granted bail. But just the whole issue around the community anger and the horrific murder of this child certainly will put this mother at huge risk.